The evening air carried a slight chill as Charlotte knelt on the sidewalk outside Marcello's, one of the finest restaurants in downtown. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, strands falling loose around her tired face. The beige cardigan she wore over her worn dress did little to keep out the cold. But it wasn't the cold that made her tremble. It was the weight of the tiny bundle she held close to her chest, her 3-month-old daughter Emma, wrapped in a faded gray blanket. Charlotte had been sitting there for nearly an hour, watching well-dressed people come and go through the warm, golden light of the restaurant. She'd rehearsed the words in her mind a dozen times, but each time someone passed, shame locked them in her throat. She was 32 years old. She'd once had a job, an apartment, a life. How had it come to this? Emma stirred against her chest, making the soft sounds that meant she'd be hungry soon. Charlotte felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. The formula was running low. Everything was running low. Then she saw him. A man in his late 30s, maybe 40, sitting alone at one of the outdoor tables. He wore a navy blue suit that looked expensive, the kind that fit perfectly without trying. His dark hair was neat, his white shirt crisp even at this hour. He'd just finished his meal. She could see the half-eaten plate of pasta, the untouched bread, the glass of red wine catching the light. Charlotte watched him check his phone, glance at his watch. He was probably waiting for someone who wasn't coming. She knew that look. It was the same look she'd worn 6 months ago, waiting at a different restaurant for Emma's father, who never showed up that night or any night after. Taking a deep breath, Charlotte stood slowly, careful not to wake Emma. Her legs were stiff from kneeling on the cold pavement. She approached the table, her heart pounding so hard she thought he might hear it. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. "I'm sorry to bother you, but may I have your leftovers? For my baby and me?" The man looked up and Charlotte found herself looking into kind brown eyes. There was no immediate judgment there, no dismissal. He simply looked at her, really looked at her, as if seeing not just a woman asking for scraps, but a whole person with a story. His gaze moved to the baby in her arms and something in his expression shifted. Not pity exactly, but recognition, understanding. "Please," Charlotte added, hating the desperation in her voice but unable to hide it. "We haven't eaten today." For a long moment he didn't speak. Then he did something Charlotte didn't expect. He stood up and pulled out the chair across from him. "Please," he said gently, "sit down." Charlotte hesitated, confused. I just wanted—" "I know," he said, "but you look exhausted. Please sit." She sat, awkwardly adjusting Emma in her arms. The baby's eyes opened briefly, unfocused and blue, before closing again. The man gestured to the waiter, who approached immediately. "Could we have a fresh order of the chicken marsala, the house salad, and the minestrone soup, please, and a pot of hot tea?" He looked at Charlotte. "Is there anything specific you'd like?" Charlotte felt tears spring to her eyes. I can't pay." "I didn't ask if you could pay," he said simply. "I asked what you'd like." She swallowed hard. "That's more than generous." "Thank you." He nodded, then sat back in his chair, studying her with those thoughtful eyes. "How old is your daughter?" 3 months, Charlotte said, looking down at Emma's sleeping face. "Her name is Emma. She's beautiful." He paused. "I'm Michael." "Charlotte." They sat in silence for a moment. Not uncomfortable exactly, but weighted with things unspoken. Finally, Michael asked, "How long have you been out here?" Charlotte felt her face flush with shame. "A few weeks. Maybe a month." "I lost track." She took a breath, feeling like she owed him an explanation. "I had a job. I was a bookkeeper for a small company, but they went out of business and I was pregnant, and nobody wanted to hire someone who'd need maternity leave right away. Then Emma came and my savings ran out and I couldn't make rent and—" She stopped, surprised at how easily the words had come. She hadn't talked to anyone, really talked, in so long. "I'm not looking for pity," she added quickly. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard. I go to the shelters, but they're full most nights. And I'm on lists for assistance, but everything takes time. And Emma needs things now, and Her voice broke. She bit her lip, trying to hold back tears. The waiter arrived with the food, setting steaming plates on the table. The smell made Charlotte's stomach clench with hunger. Michael thanked the waiter, then gently pushed the plates toward her. "Eat," he said. "Please." Charlotte wanted to be polite, to eat slowly, But the moment the first bite touched her lips, her body took over. She ate quickly, almost desperately, while Michael sat quietly, occasionally glancing at Emma. "My sister had a baby last year," he said suddenly. "A little boy. I was there when he was born. I'd never understood before that moment how much strength it takes. Being a mother." Charlotte looked up at him, a forkful of chicken halfway to her mouth. There was something in his voice, a vulnerability that surprised her. "She's my whole world," Charlotte said softly. "I'd do anything for her, even—" She gestured around them, at the sidewalk, at herself. "Even this." Michael nodded slowly. "I believe you." He was quiet for another moment, then said, "Can I ask you something? What would help most right now? What would make the biggest difference?" Charlotte thought about it. There were so many things, but one thing stood out. "A place to stay," she said. "Just somewhere safe where Emma can be warm. Where I can rest for a night and figure out the next step. Everything else, the job searching, the applications, the planning, it's so hard to do when you're just trying to survive hour by hour." Michael pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then looked back at her. "I own some properties in the city," he said. "One of them, a small apartment building, has a vacant studio on the second floor. It's furnished. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and safe and warm." Charlotte felt her heart start to race. I told you I can't pay." "I'm not asking you to pay," Michael interrupted gently. "I'm offering you a place to stay, for as long as you need to get back on your feet. No rent, just a chance." Charlotte stared at him, unable to process what she was hearing. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Michael looked down at his hands. "5 years ago, my wife left me," he said quietly. "Took our daughter with her. Moved across the country. I didn't fight it because I was working all the time, building my business, chasing success. I thought I was providing for them, but really, I was just absent. I have money now, more than I need, but I can't see my daughter grow up. I missed her first steps, her first words. I get photos sometimes, but it's not the same." He looked at Emma, and Charlotte saw the pain in his eyes. "When you walked up just now, holding your baby, asking for help to feed her, I saw someone who loves their child more than pride, more than dignity. Someone who's choosing to be present, to fight even when it's hard, even when it's humiliating. That's the kind of mother my daughter deserves. That's the kind of parent I failed to be." Charlotte felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "You're giving me a home because of your daughter?" "I'm giving you a home because everyone deserves a chance," Michael said. "Because Emma deserves to be warm and safe. Because you deserve to rest. And maybe because doing something good for someone else's child helps me feel a little less guilty about my own." They sat there in the golden light of the restaurant, a millionaire in a suit and a homeless mother with a baby, connected by the invisible, threads of regret and hope and the universal truth that love makes us vulnerable. "There's one condition," Michael added. "When you get back on your feet, and you will help someone else. Maybe not with a home, maybe just with a meal or a kind word. Pass it forward." Charlotte nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Emma woke up then, looking around with curious eyes, and Michael smiled at her. "Hello, little one," he said softly. "Your mama is very brave. You're lucky to have her." That night, Charlotte and Emma slept in a real bed for the first time in weeks. The apartment was small but perfect. A bedroom, a bathroom, a little kitchen. There was even a crib, left behind by the previous tenant. Charlotte stood at the window, holding Emma, watching the city lights blur through her grateful tears. Sometimes miracles don't announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they come quietly, in the form of a stranger who sees your humanity when you're kneeling on cold pavement asking for scraps. Sometimes they come from someone carrying their own pain, choosing to transform it into kindness. Michael visited occasionally over the following months, never staying long, just checking in. He helped Charlotte find a job with one of his business associates. He made sure Emma had everything she needed. But mostly he just listened to Charlotte's fears and hopes, to her plans for the future. And years later, when Charlotte had her own bookkeeping business and was helping other single mothers find work, she would think back to that evening outside Marcello's, how a simple request for leftovers became the moment her life changed, how one man's regret became another woman's second chance. She never forgot his words, pass it forward. And she did over and over again, creating ripples of kindness that spread far beyond what either of them Could have imagined that cold evening when compassion made all the difference.